in Colombia. Oh my God, these people are so nice and buenos dias, and they're so soft on the outside. But I could be walking down the street over here, some dude on a moto puts a gun to my freaking head.
There's an obsession with like outward appearance.
And give me rental prices, monthly living for someone that wants to come down here and live.
If you're staying in hotels or Airbnbs, the rent is going to be about like $2,000 to $3,000 in Poblado or in Bigao. I was down here on a month-long trip and then ran into a girl on my third week here and canceled all my plans because I fell in love. If you come down here like exclusively to date, you can run into so many issues.
How can we discern people in Latin America? Dissect.
You are about to embark on a journey, not just through space and time, but through the very fabric of human perception. Imagine a world where the familiar becomes strange, and the strange becomes familiar. A place where the boundaries of reality blur, and the only limit is your imagination. This is a voyage into the heart of the unknown, where every turn reveals a new perspective, and every story challenges what you thought you knew. Welcome to Bold Perceptions, where we explore the myriad ways people see the world and discover that sometimes the most extraordinary adventures lie just beyond the horizon of our own understanding.
Back in Bold with not infamous, a very famous, some say the king, Gringo king of Medellin. I don't know, that's what I've heard. Or the good boy of Medellin. He does a good job giving a beautiful reputation for Gringos down south. James, both from the Midwest. We bonded over about a year on Twitter. Did a podcast while I was in Cali beforehand. Now we're finally together. It's beautiful to see him. He's just like he is online. But today I want to really dive into Medellin and about Gringos specifically from the Midwest coming down to South America and living. But James, you look amazing. You look happy. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well. Yeah, I'm happy down here. I've been down here in Medellin for 3 years now, more than 3 years, and I've loved every second of it. But like every place, it has its ups and downs. So excited to explore all that with you.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is here, I came last year and I went to Bogota for a month, Cali a month, Santa Marta a month, and like 10 days in Cartagena. And I purposefully skipped Medellin for one reason, because a lot of people online, they talk about, oh, Gringo go home. We hate Gringos now. They're getting scoped. They're dying, which there has been a lot of cases of this. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go. Screw you guys. I don't need to go. I finally came this time because I'd met a lot of people on the Twitter and the social media. And I said, frick, I got to go down here before I go to Buenos Aires. And I'm glad I did, because so far it's been amazing. It's really a beautiful time. I can see where the issues are, but every Uber driver I talk to, at least 10 have told me, no, we love the Gringo. It's fine. There's been some issues, but you're more than welcome. And tell me about that, because you've been kind of talking about it online too, that the Gringos come down here and cause a lot of issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problems are reserved for people with bad intentions. And I mean, that could span a whole spectrum of things. But if you come down to Medellin or Colombia, or really anywhere in Latin America with bad intentions, with the objective of using a whole lot of drugs or taking advantage of the prostitution, the legality of it here in Colombia, or just the fact that there's a lot more freedom here, intangible freedom, people feel a lot freer because there are fewer regulations. And if you come here because of those things, I think you open yourself up to the possibility that, yeah, maybe some bad things will happen. If you hang around the wrong people, if you don't surround yourself with killers like you would in the United States or wherever you're from in Europe, then yeah, you're going to run into issues. But you could say that about a lot of different places in Latin America. Medellin is not alone. But obviously, this place has also had its difficulties. So, yeah, it can be easily summarized by, if you come down here with bad intentions, if you come down here to take advantage of the people, then you will run into issues.
It's 100% a two-way street, because for every buyer, there's plenty of vendors down here, right? So I don't blame it just on the bad Gringos or on troublemakers here, but both of them go together and it amplifies to a magnitude, right? I do think that there is a special gringo mindset you have down here because you get stuck in Poblado and they make it pretty secure. Provenza, I was like, oh my God, like it felt like I was in anywhere in Europe, party zone, how good it was taken care of, how pretty it looked, and just drunks. You know, Europeans, Americans hammered, you know, prostitutes everywhere, but it was safe, you know? So if I'm a gringo that's not used to Latin America, I come down here, I'm in this environment, oh my God, I'm king, I'm God, you know, let's throw the dollars around, nothing's gonna happen to me until it does. And I met a couple of gringos who seem to be in that camp of just troublemakers, and the stories they're telling me, I'm like, dude, this isn't gonna last. Yeah. Like you're on a very slippery slope, and sooner than later you're gonna regret what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I also don't want to sugarcoat things. Like the way I talk about life down here in Latin America is not meant to paint a picture like it's all sunshine and rainbows, because it's not. I think you're undoubtedly less safe here in Medellin than you are wherever you're from in the U.S. I mean, if you compare like the worst examples from the U.S. with the best examples of Colombia or Latin America, I think obviously those kind of scenarios show that yeah, Latin America can be way safer than the U.S. or parts of Europe. But average to average, and if you're not like stepping your game up in Latin America and living like a very wealthy person would here, then yeah, you open yourself up to issues. I just had a buddy yesterday who is not a bad guy by any means, who didn't get mixed up with any bad people or anything, but something led to another, and his home was invaded by a bunch of people who wanted some of his assets.
Did the security give them the code, or how did they get in?
They got into the complex, because a lot of places here have security, which is what Nick is talking about, have security at the front of the complex, and they got in because they said that they were going to tour a house for sale. They got in, walked into his house pretty much uninterrupted, and stole some stuff from him, and it was scary for him. He had a gun pointed at his chest. So yeah, that kind of stuff happens. But on average, I would say that if you have money, if you have means, and you come down here and take serious precautions to safeguard your wealth and safeguard yourself and your family, then this place can be a wonderful place to live. And I've kind of realized that over time. I was scared when I first came here, but I've learned that with the right connections and in the right places and with the right precautions, which you should always take, you're okay. You're okay.
I mean, the biggest thing always comes down to drugs, women, and partying, you know, drinking. Like, if you can limit those or not partake in those, 99% of the time you're going to be safe anywhere in Latin America. Besides that 1%, it just happens to you, okay? More than likely, you're going to get got once in a while, especially if you're doing any sort of, like, immersion travel down here, not just sitting in little bubbles. But it's surprising for you to say this, too, because you've been, like, a public figure in Colombia, you know, putting your name out there. This is where I am, Medellin, showing a lot of like your private life. Obviously, you've been, you know, dating the same girl for a while, so you're not getting mixed up in, you know, crazy scenes with that. But I'm pretty surprised that you've been so safe or not a target of something online. You did say you got death threats, no?
I mean, that was a one-off case where.
And mind you, this is like the nicest guy on Twitter. People are giving him death threats.
And I mean, I get death threats from Americans all the time and Europeans for saying some of those things I say about life in the U.S. So it goes both ways. But yeah, there was one case where it was complaining, I'll admit it, about the bureaucracy in the immigration office and just how long it took to do such a simple process, which you'll understand if you've been down here in Latin America. That happens everywhere in Latin America. No government is really that efficient, and neither in the United States. But I complained about it publicly, and then it went viral, and I suffered the consequences for that. Got a whole bunch of death threats in my DMs. But that stuff is super ephemeral, and people forget about it in 6 hours. So it doesn't bother me too much. But like what we were talking about before, I take precautions. I definitely do. And not precautions that I would take in the U.S. I feel almost always 100% of the time completely comfortable taking my phone out in public in the US. I don't do that in Latin America. I don't do that in Medellin. I don't walk down the street with my face glued to my phone. I don't wear fancy jewelry. I don't make myself a target, which is really how you can summarize that. So, but a lot of those things don't really affect my day to day. So I'm not worried about them. But yeah, the name of the game here is to not make yourself a target. Here, they say here in Medellin, in Colombia, no dar papaya, which means don't give papaya, which means don't make yourself a target. Don't give people a reason to come after you. Don't show off your bling. Don't make a scene like a lot of obnoxious Americans like to do when they're abroad. It really comes down to that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite of the don't show papaya thing. I like to dress nice, like fancy, just with class, okay? It doesn't mean you're stupid with, a huge gold train on, but I like to dress like I'm in Italy or in Europe, right? And that's just my mindset. I feel good when I dress nice. I think it says a lot about a culture and a society if people are dressing nice or not, but you're going to open yourself up for a lot more risk. That being said, through all the places I've been in Latin America dressing the way I do, been robbed one time. And it was completely my fault in the central Brazil at night after a full day shopping, doing a lot of bad things, drinking hard. But I was with locals, okay? And I was at a hole-in-the-wall bar, like 50 people on the street, and you go up to the hole and get the caprina and all that. And someone just went from behind and ripped a necklace off, right? And I'm like, oh my God. But I didn't like the necklace that much, so I just kept drinking and Hakuna Matata. I had shopping bags on me, I had cash, iPhones, jewelry, and that's all they took. But yeah, if you can dress, James, and James still looking good though. I like how you're dressed, but I wouldn't. If you're not used to things, I would really be subtle with how you dress. And like, if you're coming here to dates and whatnot, you don't need to dress like you're dressing in London or Milano, right? It's not like that. It's more laid back in most of Latin America. So big point on that. But okay, tell me in the 3 years the change you've seen in Medellin. You're still in love with it, or you're like, damn, I always stay away from this area and I'm seeing these drastic changes? I mean, for one, the real estate seems insanely overpriced in some of these buildings we were talking about.
Yeah. Boy, where do I start? So I've been here for 3 years and I've certainly seen a lot of change, more so in Medellin than I have in other parts of Colombia and other parts of Latin America. In terms of my personal experience, there's definitely a honeymoon phase. Definitely. Like, there's this thrill once you get here. And I'm not just talking about Medellin. I'm talking about just leaving the United States or leaving Europe or traveling at all. If you go from San Francisco to Miami, it's going to be completely different. But there's a honeymoon phase involved where you're completely enamored with this new place, the newness, the adventure, the exploration, all these different aspects of life in a new place. That's super exciting. That wanes. That definitely disappears after quite a while. I think after about a year and a half here, I started to notice some things that I really didn't like about society here. And that's not to say that I hate it here, and that's not to say that the US is better. It's just every place has its ups and downs. But for my first year and a half here, I just noticed the ups because I was comparing it to life where I was before, and I was just noticing the benefits. Didn't really notice the downsides because I wasn't so involved. I didn't have a home here. I wasn't super dedicated to my girlfriend yet. Yeah, just had my tourist classes on. So that dissipates after a little bit, and then you start to realize the cracks that exist, and you try to plug them, but honestly, it's tough to fight. It's tough to fight because they're cultural, and it's very difficult to change a culture from the inside out. Well, really from the outside in. So you can't fight it. You just have to accept it, and you have to accept that culture is different than yours, and that there will be downsides to that culture that don't really they don't really intermingle with your culture from wherever you are. So, and like one thing that an example I'll talk about on that note is just the bureaucracy. Like, in the US, it is so easy to get things done compared to here. And that is because people are motivated by money. People are motivated by the drive and determination of capitalism and to level up every single year, every single month, every single day. and therefore they're very financially driven. Here, even if you want to pay someone, they may not show up. They may not respond to you. They may not do the job that they're being paid to do, even if there's money on the line. That drive just doesn't exist as much as it does in the US. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist here at all. There are tons of people here who have the drive and determination that you see in the US. But on average, it doesn't exist as much as it does in the US. Yeah.
Yeah, after 6 months, I go freaking crazy down in Latin America, okay? Because especially for where we're from, in the Midwest, the culture, the lifestyle, the way of thinking is almost opposite, right? And that's probably a reason why we love it, too, because it's totally unique, and it makes us feel alive and out of our shell and whatnot. But there is serious problems down here that if you are born, especially in a developed type country, it's hard to live in, okay? It's very hard to get used to. Obviously, money solves a lot of issues, but it's like a fucking dog barking all the time. It's like, we don't need to hear the dog barking all the time. Like, we can shut the dog up. Like, it kills me when that happens, but it also reminds me, like, in Italy, too. Like, 2 years in Italy, and it was after, like, 3-4-ish months, the Italian glasses come off, and you start viewing Italy like an Italian, and you're like, damn, this street is dirty. Damn, like, this bureaucracy is insanely brutal. Like, why do the Italian does this? Like, it's everywhere you go. A lot of times, like we talk about, there's a lot of pros and cons in each place, and the biggest thing you need to do is not necessarily totally adapt or conform to the negatives of that society. Like, you showed up early today. We both show up early. We don't let the Latinos who show up an hour later, we don't turn into that, like, because I don't want to live like that. It's disrespectful to me. They think it's not disrespectful. And I tell them before I meet them, I said, hey, I want you to show up on time, because to me and where I'm from, is not respectful. A lot of times they listen and they do it. If they don't, I leave. But it's Candyland, I think, when you first come down here and you don't see the negatives, and then when the glasses come off, it's like, whoa, there's a reason this culture and this society moves the way it does, and why some cultures and some avenues succeed and others don't.
And if you try to fight it, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Because, like I said, you cannot change that culture from the outside in. It's one versus a lot. And to fight a generations-long, centuries-long culture that just doesn't mix with yours, just let it be. And maybe if that is overwhelming to you, this place isn't right for you. I've seen so many people come to Latin America, not just Medellin, not just Colombia, but Latin America, and immediately return because they just can't handle it. It's not usually the tourists who are just here for a short ephemeral time, but it's the people who try to buy a home here, or try to date here and bring their girlfriend back to the US, or try to build a business here. Forget it. If you can't handle it, then don't try to fight it. Just move on.
Business is a whole different topic. The way business is done in Latin America is mind-boggling. I've been screwed over a handful of times, and I don't know. I think I don't know if most of your money comes from outside of Latin America, but mine does, and I want to keep it that way. I want to try to. We need to talk about the American football thing, because I had a conversation with the founder, and I'm trying to get Gringos to get their reputation better in Medellin by supporting local community with something they grew up with, American football, right? So I have a lot of ideas here, but then I think back about, okay, I got screwed this way, that way, and. What do you think about business here? You bought a home. I think you're doing some more things. Is it impossible or no?
It's certainly not impossible. I mean, I've seen so many people come here to Medellin and open businesses, whether they're restaurants or tour businesses or Airbnb businesses or what have you. And they've been successful. But I think it's because they understand the culture, or they work with a Paisa or a local person in that business who can understand the local culture better than they can, and they operate a little bit more far from the client-facing side of the business or the partner side of the business. So it certainly can be done. It's just you've got some barriers there. You've got an extra barrier to entry when it comes to culture, but I've seen it done.
All right, go through 5 of the top neighborhoods here and say the pros and cons of each, would you?
Okay. 5 top neighborhoods in Medellin. All right, clip this. Poblado, Laureles, Envigado. I would say Laureles, Belén, and then I'll go a little bit outside of Medellin for Llano Grande, and I'll explain each of these. So Poblado is the one that you're undoubtedly familiar with if you've either been to Medellin or just know Medellin from afar. That's where most gringos or most tourists come when they come to Medellin. It's where they stay, it's where they eat, it's where they party, it's where they do everything. And most of them don't even leave that little bubble because it's it's upscale compared to the rest of the country. And a lot of businesses have been built there in order to cater to those gringos. So obviously it's a lot more expensive, but you get your first world amenities that you want. Laureles is another part of Medellin that was recently named like the top neighborhood in the world.
Really?
I don't know how they swung that, but it is a very cool neighborhood. I think Condé Nast, like a very well-known like travel magazine, named them the top neighborhood in the world. Anyway, it's in the bottom of the valley. Poblado's up on the hill, and it's a little bit more local, a little bit more residential, but you also have your party life there. Not as high-end, upscale as you would find in Poblado, but for that reason, it's a little bit cheaper. Food is more local, and I really like Laureles. The stadium is there, a lot of fitness options.
Families walking around, tons of green. Really
Totally, yes, very green there. But in Poblado too, like they have a very distinct architecture. They build nature into the buildings, which is really cool. If you have a chance.
You ain't walking around Poblado though as much with the hills, right? Laureles, I'm seeing families and bike lanes and.
Yeah, so that's what I meant by Poblado's up on the hill and Laureles is down in the valley where it's very flat. Poblado's very hilly, and if you're walking around, it's not as walkable because of the hills. You can do it, but it's also the biggest commune in Medellin. Communes are like little parts of the city. So Poblado, when I say Poblado, is a very big area. So that can mean a million different things. Okay, Poblado, Laureles, I said Envigado. That is just south of Poblado. So it's right on the barrier, the border of Poblado. And there are a lot of gringos migrating there. So it's getting a little bit more expensive. Higher end offerings for apartments, for restaurants, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of local monies there as well, as in Poblado. New money. Laureles is old Colombian money. So a lot of families, a lot of multi-generational families live there, a lot of houses. Poblado is more like apartments, Envigado is like apartments, top tier neighborhoods. Then Belén.
Well,
yeah.
Go through those three neighborhoods and give me rental prices, monthly living for someone that wants to come down here live for some months.
So that's kind of a long answer to a short question. There's a big difference between renting off of Airbnb or renting on Airbnb or staying in hotels. If you're staying in hotels or Airbnbs, the rent is going to be about like $2,000 to $3,000 in Poblado or Envigado. And again, you're staying in like higher end places.
Pools, facilities.
Pools, saunas, doorman, everything. High security as well. And like I said, those are mostly apartments. So you're way up, have amazing views. So a lot of people think it's worth it. If you're here for a short time, you won't really notice the cost. Laureles is a lot cheaper, but it's starting to climb up. So again, gringos are usually in one of those three neighborhoods. Laureles is a little cheaper. If you're looking at it to rent on Airbnb for a month, it's going to be like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. If you get outside of those more like gringo bubbles, expat bubbles, tourist bubbles, in Belén or Llano Grande. Actually, Llano Grande is actually going to be way more expensive than that, but I'll talk about that in a second. Belén is another part of Medellin that people don't talk about usually, and I have really fallen in love with this neighborhood. It's just north of the municipal airport in Medellin, so right in the center of the valley, just south of Laureles, so you have really easy connection to all the restaurants in Laureles, easy connection to Poblado, because it's right in between Laureles and Poblado, and it's quiet, residential, local, very few gringos, very few expats. So I hope this video doesn't go viral because I want to keep it that way. But it's a nice little kept secret. My favorite part of Belén is the Unidad Deportiva, which is a huge park where they have a whole bunch of outdoor sports, bunch of soccer fields, running track, archery courses, tennis courts, basketball courts, swimming pools, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's totally free. And yeah, if you're within like 20 meters of that, your quality of life just goes through the roof. So little known secret about Medellín, Belén, Unidad Deportiva, stay around there if you can. Then Llano Grande, that's the last of the 5. Super upscale area, not really city because it doesn't have a city center. Area outside of Medellín, outside of the valley of Medellín. It's where a lot of the reggaeton stars live and a lot of politicians. It's mostly homes. So you've got acres and farms and rivers and forests out there. A lot of great hiking, but really, really high-end homes and upscale accommodations there. I don't even know if you can rent Airbnbs there. I'm sure you can, but it's gonna cost a pretty penny. But if you're staying there with a bunch of dudes or girls, you can drop down the price quite a bit. But Llano Grande is like top-notch living in Medellin.
You said stay with a lot of girls. That's a different topic. Paisa, right? You have been dating one. You've been public about that. I know you met other gringos who have had dating experiences in Medellin. Obviously, this is a huge talking points online. There you go. Not bad. Better than mine when it's right over you. Give me kind of your overview of someone that wants to come down here and date. Not just fuck around, but meet the Paisa. And how is it possible for a gringo? Is it a good relationship? Is it complicated? Kind of give me your breakdown on this.
Hold on.
Yeah. Hey, in the meantime, check out where we're at. We're at this little, not restored, replica pueblo. What is this one called again?
Pueblito Paisa.
Pueblito Paisa. Yeah, Paisa. Yeah. But anyways, you got it?
Yeah. Okay, so dating a Paisa. I don't love this topic just because I don't have a whole lot of experience with it. I'm dating a girl, but I have not dated around, so I don't know how to approach it, but I can talk about my personal experience. I didn't come here originally to date. I was down here on a month-long trip and then ran into a girl on my 3rd week here and canceled all my plans because I fell in love. But if you come down here like exclusively to date, you can run into so many issues when it comes to girls. Dating apps.
In Medellin, like the rest of Colombia, normal girls. In Medellin, 50, maybe a little more mutual beneficios, putas, whores. And a lot of them actually aren't just like normal whores. They're just so used to Gringos saying, how much do you want? And that's how they deal with Gringos now. Like it's really interesting.
We'll talk a little bit about the Midwest later, I think. But I compare this place to a mix of Los Angeles with the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. I've never lived in Los Angeles, but I think this place has some semblance of it here. The reason I say that is because there's an obsession with like outward appearance that after you explore that, there's some emptiness there. And I think that would be true of dating in LA. I've never lived there, but that's kind of what I think of the place from an outsider perspective. There is such a high chance of running into people like that where, a few dates might be fun, but living your life next to someone who's that empty or that it's just like superficial is just not fun. At least for me, from my perspective. Again, I haven't dated around. I've just dated one girl, but that wouldn't be fun for me. If you're looking for someone to like spend the rest of your life with, I think just Latin America in general produces some really quality values and partners.
Thank you, machismo.
And I've been lucky to find that here. I've had a fantastic time with my girlfriend, and she has like very traditional conservative values, which I appreciate. And I think you can find that hell of a lot more in Latin America than you can in the US or Europe. So it's a welcoming place if you're looking for that. if you're looking for like just a fling, I have zero experience in that, and I don't feel like I'm in a position to advise on it.
You made a crazy point, and I'm developing a theory on this about how important the facade is in Latin America, right? You have girls living in total slums, but they get their hair, makeup, nails done every week to look super pretty. Social media is massive in Latin America. People showing, oh, this is how I'm living, this is what's going on. But in reality, like everywhere, but here it's amplified. They're not living this lifestyle, right? And I see it, even like I can extrapolate it to a building in Europe is art itself, how it's made, right? Oh my God, the texture, the facade, whatever. I'm not the architect, right? But then in Latin America, you have to put murals on the side to make it look pretty. This not cheap, but like just throw something on the side of this rundown building and oh, now it's fixed. And this to me, in Latin America, life is a lot about outward appearance, okay? And we can say, okay, that's like that in LA or it's like that in USA a lot too with social media. But I think it's amplified extremely here. I don't know if it's because of the poverty. I don't know if it's because of whatever reason, but you get a lot of fake like this. You meet a Brazilian on the street, you meet a group of them. Oh my God, we're having the best time ever. Beleza, we're best friends. You know, you're going to come to my house and we're going to hang out every day. One, you never talk to them again. And two, their house is covered in barbed wire. Okay. So you go to the beautiful beach in Brazil and right next to it is a favela. The contradiction between what is happening on the outside to what's happening on the inside is a mystery that I haven't cracked yet. I'm trying to figure it out myself mentally, but it drives me crazy, especially from the Midwest, okay? Midwest people, it's not as much as about the facade as it is who we are. You know, we invite you in our house. If we say we like you, you know, we're going to hang out again. And like, it's complete culture clash. And obviously I'm generalizing right now, okay? But I've been in a lot of places in Latin America, and this is something I felt. What do you think about this idea?
I mean, just look at Miami. That's proof. That's proof that I think that theory stands. You just look at Miami and see all the Latinos there who have moved from Latin America and are new transplants in Miami, and it's very similar to LA. Just exactly what I was talking about. So yeah, I think that theory stands. I know there are, like I said, there are a lot more qualified people to talk about this topic than I am. But Medellin Unmapped is one. Especially if you're coming to Medellin, if you're on Twitter,
Good guy.
Medellin Unmapped is a great source for like. Yeah, a great resource for like anything related to girls or places to meet or places to party and like safe places. But he makes an important note that I think is really important when you're dating here in Colombia or Latin America in general. You really want to go up class. The reason is because they have like family structure.
They speak English.
They sometimes can speak English. They have resources. They're not dependent on you. They have a job. And they're not like completely sold out to social media. They're not completely sold out to this idea of, oh, I'm just going to marry a gringo and go back to the United States and live happily ever after. They're living well in Colombia. Why would they need to go anywhere else? Yeah.
No, I'm not. Extrapolate on my point about the facade in Latin America, not about women, just overall. That's what I was kind of really hitting on. You said Miami this, but you kind of put it on to the woman thing, and that's there. But lifestyle, way of being. So like, example, in Colombia, oh my God, these people are so nice and buenos dias and they're so soft on the outside, but I could be walking down the street over here, some dude on a moto puts a gun to my freaking head. Like, compared to Poland, where I lived, okay, no one looks at you in the street. If you smile on the street, you're a freaking crazy man. You should be in a mental insane asylum. Every door is unlocked in Eastern Poland. There's no crime. I see the homeless man in the morning going through my trash. Nic dobre. Or whatever, I forgot the terms. Everything is good. There's no danger, right? So like in Latin America, it's the opposite. It's the softest outer shell, just like with the Latino who, amor, and they put scopamine in your drink, and you have everything lost, and you might die.
And I know why that is. It's because it's a low trust society. So in the United States or in Poland, you can leave your phone on a Starbucks table and come back 6 hours later and it's still there. Increasingly less so, I think, in the United States. But that the trust that you have with your neighbors, the trust that you have with your coworkers, the trust that you have with the society in general is relatively there. Here, that doesn't exist. So you cannot leave things unattended. You can't wait for someone to do something that you might even be paying for them to do, and just trust that they'll do it.
They
It
act
just,
like my best friend, but then they rob me behind my back.
I think it's because of that low trust. So they expect that facade of niceness and sympathy on the outset, and then that's it. That's the extent of it. So they try to make a good front so as to make you rob you or anything, but
So they're setting me up.
it's more common here than anywhere else.
Some dude on Twitter had a good point because I brought this up on there. He said because of the history of the Americas and all the war, tribalism, new cultures mixing, that a way to get on someone's good side was to be outwardly friendly, right? But in the back of your head, oh my God, I could kill this person. I know how I'm going to move with them. But it wasn't just like, an Indian stepping up to a guy with a gun, right? Like, you're fucked. This guy's got a gun. Yeah. And so this is what his idea was. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, but it was really interesting how our whole new Americas have developed this idea of being like, let's super nice and don't hurt me. I'm good type of attitude compared to like the Slavic people who are just fucking hard as fuck on the outside. But, when you get to know them, they die for you like an iceberg. You melt the iceberg. It's really interesting. And that's why I say if you're going to get into relationships with women, with business, with living, you need to be ready for the inevitable get a knife in your back. Because every freaking gringo has had that happen at least once. If you haven't happened to you, you're a lucky man. But it's going to happen. It doesn't mean all Latinos are bad, okay? I'm not saying that. But it's a common theme that I've dealt with and many people I know have dealt with going through these areas as a gringo specifically.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like I said before, take common precautions. Don't take your phone out in public. Don't dress a certain way. Don't give yourself attention where it's undeserved. And don't hang out with shitty people. At least from my standpoint, it's very easy for me to tell after hanging out with one person for an hour whether I'm going to be good friends with them or not.
What are the reps? What are the red flags?
I mean, the same red flags that you would experience in the U.S. They talk about things that don't interest you. They talk about shitty, like, bad things. Obviously, that's subjective. Just if they're talking about things that don't interest you, why would you spend time with them?
What's the real red flags, Freedom? Tell me. How can we discern people in Latin America? That's the correct word.
Yeah.
Dissect. Fuck. That's what I say about this, too. This Club Colombian, I hate it, but I always find myself drinking it. It's unbelievable.
I actually like Club Colombia.
BBC.
I like it.
Brewing Company. I like
it. But next time, you got to get a michelada. So this in a glass with a little bit of zumo de limon, lime juice at the bottom with salt on the rim. They do it a little bit different in Mexico with like tomato juice and stuff, but I prefer the Colombian michelada. Red flags. I mean, red flags in guys and girls are completely different in Latin America. I think, and very different from what you would experience in the U.S. Like if you see anybody with arm sleeves and earrings and piercings all over the place and dressed like a urban guy in the U.S., you're going to kind of stay away. You're going to have your reservations. Here, that does not. It's not the same kind of vibe, especially in Medellin, where urban style is like the thing. Everybody has arm sleeves with tattoos and piercings everywhere, even the guys. So, I don't know. What about you? Like, what kind of red flags do you see in people when hanging out in Brazil? Because I'm sure comparing Colombian culture to Brazilian culture, those are probably two of the most similar cultures in Latin America. If you're like comparing country to country, what would you say red flags are, especially in guys? Like I could go off on a tangent with girls, but guys.
Fala Portuguese, poquito, whatever. I don't speak much. So like the people I was in touch with were the English speakers. And a lot of times in Brazil, especially, those people have traveled to the USA. Those people come for money, and they have a similar way of thinking relating to life. As in red flags, I mean, with women, I'm going to be honest with you. tattoos are a red flag, okay? So, and there's a lot in Latin America, which is so sad, so sad. I was scarred forever when I went to my first Brazilian beach, and I saw these amazingly beautiful people, right? A lot of natural too, a lot of fake too. I'm like, what are you doing to your body? Like Kardashian, Kim was right. You do not put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari. You do not do this, right? So that is, but then again, I've met so many girls from the favela, amazing people, you know, even though we're Google translating, we're doing all that, good vibes. I honestly, like I've said before, Brazil is safer than Colombia, in my opinion, 110%. So like, my thing is like I've been traveling for a long time, right? So I know I'm gonna enjoy the moment with you right now. You know, we like each other, and if we stay in touch, we stay in touch. This is how I treat every relationship. Get the most out of it. You can only meet, I think Dunbar said there's 150 people you can keep in your head at once. 5 of those are close, 10 of those you'd hang out with. The other 100 are like acquaintances, you know, and so to me, it's kind of like I've learned to enjoy this moment, move on, don't analyze too much, and if we stay in contact, okay, then I develop more of a relationship, right? But your gut will tell you a lot of the times, like, okay, this person is moving a certain way that will probably not be conducive to my lifestyle. But again, I don't like party that much. I don't go to clubs. I don't really hang out late at nights. I like day drinking. I like going on the beach and drinking. But I also think it's your vibe. Okay, if you want to do like I was talking about the dating apps and be a flashy gringo that just wants to pay all the girls to have sex with them, like you're going to attract those kind of people. If you tell the girl like, hey, look, I look to meet good people, share good vibes, and if we have a good connection, okay, maybe have some sex. But if you be honest with people at the gate, I think you don't go through as much as those problems, and not just with women, but dudes and so forth. You know, your presence says a lot about you and who will be around you.
Yeah, I mean, the last point that you made, I think, is the most important.
I kind of worked around that whole answer. I didn't give really any specific red flags.
But, I mean, it adds to the conversation. So the last point, I think, is the most important. The more the hobbies and interests that you have and the things that you do in this new part of the world, the more people you'll attract that are interested in those same interests and hobbies. If you love going hiking and you go hiking in Latin America, you're going to attract similar people who enjoy going hiking and therefore hang out with more people who like hiking. And that way, I think you can kind of avoid the red flags, even the discussion about it, because you're hanging around people who have similar values. So I think the whole conversation about red flags is just kind of a moot point. If you just spend time around people who share your values, share your interests, share your hobbies, then you don't even have to worry about that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is like noticeable in the first second. So if you're on a dating app, or if you're meeting up with girls in person, or if you're meeting up with guys in person who you met on Twitter or whatever, you're going to be able to notice in the first 5 minutes of hanging out with them whether you're going to be good friends with them or not. If you have some good like social skills, some emotional intelligence and empathy. So yeah, that's what I would say about the topic.
Okay, speaking about Twitter, you've leveraged that very well. I noticed too, when I got back on there, it was some months after Elon bought it. I'm like, okay, let's test it out. Maybe, you know, free speech. Dude, I met a lot of people on there. Like, a lot of connections. Majority of them in person have been solid. No issues with it. Talk about that aspect relating to traveling, about how to leverage social media and what role that plays in your life. I'll tell you one thing that's huge for me. When I solo travel so much, now you've been wifed up, so you always have someone next to you. I've had a lot of lonely nights, okay? And that's a different topic. But the social media, to me, you're documenting your journey, so you can look back in a while and say, oh, wow, this is cool, this is neat. It's a diary that's very good to express what the hell you're going through, what you're seeing, you know, because I can't talk to a friend, you know, hey, help me through this or whatnot. So I put it out there to get it out of my mind, basically. And then a networking tool, okay? You start saying, hey, you know, this and that. People, they come to you, they want to talk to you. I'm going to Buenos Aires, right? I met a dude in Egypt. Had a great time for like 5 days. And he said, Nick, you need to come to Argentina. I show you the best time. And I say, yeah, everyone says this, right? We'll see. Anyways, my other friend wanted to go to South America for the first time. And but he only wanted to go to Buenos Aires. He's kind of a little afraid of other places. And, you know, he wanted like the Euro Latin American mix. So I'm like, damn, I'm going to call my friend I met, right? This was like 4 months ago. I said, amigo, hey, I think I'm going to come to Buenos Aires. And I'm looking at this area, that area. He's like, Nick, you're not getting an Airbnb or a hotel. You're staying at my place. He's got many different places over there. I said, what? He's like, yeah, it's totally open. You stay as long as you want. If you stay for 6 months, okay, then give me a little rent money. I said, are you sure? I said, send me photos first. I don't want to live in a dump. Sends me photos. Beautiful place. He keeps texting me, Nick, hey, I pick you up from the airport. I'll bring you to Cordoba, Salta. I'll do anything for you. I'm like, what the fuck? And no gay shit either. This is just a cool dude. So like, this is the power of one, networking. Then we follow each other on Instagram. You saw kind of my life and whatnot. And the point about social media.
Yeah, I mean, long question, short answer this time. Creating content online forever changed my life. I think a lot of people talk about Lux surface area, and I don't know if you guys know that term, but it's essentially the more you open yourself up to new people, new opportunities, new businesses, new ideas, new philosophies, new everything, new events, the more you put yourself in a place where you're going to benefit from them. Twitter is one of those places where the more you interact with people, the more you share your ideas, the more you learn from other people's ideas, the better your life will be. I think that's absolutely true. Because of Twitter, and I'm not on there right now just because my business got too busy.
I told the people that you're coming back. I said you're going to start tweeting.
That's eventual. It's eventual. I'll come back at some point. But my life is exponentially better because of the people I've met on Twitter. And it doesn't have to be Twitter. It could be Instagram. It could be YouTube or whatever.
Twitter's the best right now.
I agree. But for like information sharing and learning, for expanding your like philosophy and horizon in a way that you don't get from just staying in your little echo chamber. You see other ideas, you get corrected when you put an idea out there, you get feedback on those ideas. And I'm not just talking about business ideas, I'm talking about like the ways you think about the world. There are so many people in this world, there are 8 billion of them. There are very few people who agree with you on everything. And therefore, the more you start to open yourself up to other ideas and other people and other places and other stuff, the more opportunities that will bring. So my business has benefited because of being on Twitter. My mind has been benefited from being on Twitter. My body, like my physical health, has benefited from being on fitness Twitter. My finances have, like every aspect of my life has benefited because of the people I've met on Twitter. And I keep in contact with so many people. A lot of my best friends now are because of the people that I met on Twitter. So it doesn't have to be Twitter, it can be any platform, but I would encourage anyone to start sharing your ideas on social media because it's the best way to get immediate feedback on those ideas, because you'll expand your life, or you'll expand your luck surface area. And if you haven't heard that term before, look it up because there's some really good content about it.
Yeah, I think it's a form of jumping into the pool or the deep end. You know, you're going to sometimes drown, sometimes gasp for breath, but it's going to check your ego a lot. You're going to get flooded with new ideas, like you said. And it's so good for someone that is solo traveling, especially. It's a very therapeutic way. It could be negative, too. Okay, you got to be very careful and don't get into slippery slopes on the whole social media part. But there's so many positives from it. And if you're not going to do that, do a freaking journal, okay? Create art about the places you're going. Do something creative while you're traveling, okay? Because seeing a new cathedral, seeing a new landmark, okay, that gets old. Being on a beach somewhere, okay, that's great for a couple of days. But this life is as amazing as it is. Like everything becomes blase. So how do you make the most of it? Creating out of it, okay? That's how my brain stays sane, and that's why I keep loving what I'm doing. To the final topic, James. Okay, 2 Midwest boys, this is how we relate. I think I've been talking to you about this for a minute. Putting together something for people in the Midwest that want to come down for the winters or want to move to Latin America. Let's talk about how we were able to fit in, love it, the benefits, everything. I mean, you just said a lot of your new friends are from Twitter. You still hang out with the old dudes who are, you know, in the suburb at the same bar every day, working a 9 to 5, had a family when they're 26. Like, let's talk about Midwest boys going down to Latin America.
Yeah, that's a big topic. So maybe let's talk about friendships first. So I'm a little bit of my life story. I'm originally from Wisconsin, grew up in North Dakota, went to school in Ohio, and then worked in Indiana before coming down to Latin America. And so like Midwest through and through. But I'm well traveled around the U.S. and Europe and Latin America before I even came down here. Relationships, I think, are like the most important thing in life. I mean, if you look at the biggest regrets on people's deathbeds, and I don't mean to get preachy, but relationships are like the most important thing. They wish they would have worked less. They wish they would have focused on their finances less. They wish they would have focused on family and friends more. So it's been very intentional. It's been very intentional from my perspective to maintain the relationships that I had before coming down here, and then make really, really good friends while I'm here.
But you lose a lot of the old ones. Like life goes on.
I mean,
the real ones you stick with.
Yeah, I mean, being physically in a different place than your friends, naturally you're gonna grow some chasms there. But like my best college friends and my best friends from my hometown in North Dakota, or my best friends from Indiana before I came down here, I still regularly keep in contact with them, and thank God they're all doing really well too. So they're able to come down here and visit me in Colombia or Ecuador or Buenos Aires, and we've made some like incredible memories together. Yeah, you can see the smile on my face. I keep in contact. I make sure that I keep in contact with all my friends from past lives, because it's really important that you maintain those relationships and don't just give up on them. I know a lot of people down here in Latin America don't have a lot of friends back home. And I've run into a lot of people like that. And they're trying to escape something in the US, or they're running from something in the US and come here in order to escape that. And those aren't the exact people I want to spend time with. So, maintain those relationships and make new ones while you're down here. Social media is a perfect place to do it, especially when you're surrounded by a whole lot of people who don't share your same culture. But also branch out. Like I have now, because I speak Spanish and because I've integrated a little bit, I have a ton of like Paisa local friends here in Medellin who are Colombians. So yeah, making friends down here, that's a whole nother topic, but I'll let you respond to everything I said.
Big point, you say people that are living this kind of lifestyle are either running away from something or running towards something. And it's very easy to decipher who those people are. But I would highly, highly recommend, muchas gracias, that you're going to figure out real quick who is like your real friend and who is not when you leave. Okay, and that's beautiful. It cuts through the BS, and a lot of the friends you have, if you live at home, probably aren't your real friends. Like, go live abroad for a little bit and see who's there, see who's not. But the ones who stay, okay, that's who you got. That's all you really need, right? Don't neglect those, even if they're living the life that you don't want to live. Okay, some people are very content living the suburban 9-to-5, have a family life, and if you're happy like that, hakuna matata. Don't be like, oh, like there's a lot of people on the money Twitter or those spaces who are just like, yeah, fuck your day one, or they're losers, they're gonna hold you back. And I've been seeing more pushback on that though. These people keep you grounded, they're good people, they just not as fulfilled than your kind of mindset. You know what I mean? Like it's anyone who does this, like I just said, is different. They're ticking very different. And so yeah, I think your family is the number one thing, if you're lucky, okay? You need to be calling them on WhatsApp. You need to be FaceTiming them, trying to meet up in a certain location. Luckily for me, I have lots of phone calls, and that keeps it the same. And to me, like, it's hard for them, but to me, it's like I don't need to see someone every day, you know? So I talk on the phone. I feel nothing has changed when I see them again in a year. And as you get older and your parents get older, then it gets more challenging because you're worried about, okay, shit, how many more, Christmases do I have? How many more times together do we have? Like, you start counting it down, right? So, but that is very hard, I think, as Midwest people to just up and leave the home and so forth. What other tips would you give to people like us?
I mean, I think you hit on a great point there at the end. Wait But Why is a excellent blog, and they came out with, or Tim Urban. Tim Urban is his name. He came out with this super viral blog post maybe a couple of years ago about the time that you spend with different categories of people in your life all the way throughout your life. So the time that you spend with your parents goes like this, precipitously drops off, and then is pretty consistent for the rest of your life. And when you're like 20 or 25, you might only see your parents like 30 more times, maybe once a year, or 50 more times once a year for the next 50 years. That's scary as hell when you start to count those times down. So I try my hardest to make as many trips back to the United States to see my mom. My dad is outside of the United States, and we try to meet up as much as possible. My mom and my dad, my brothers have come to visit me here in Colombia. It's just 3 hours away from Florida, so it's very easy. And my friends, I prioritize those relationships. It's super, super important to me. At the beginning of the year, I map out like my whole year in terms of like the trips I take and the people I want to see, the people who give me energy, all that kind of stuff. If you dedicate like very specific weeks or weekends or whatever trips and plan them, then you're going to see your loved ones. You're going to see your family. You're going to see your friends. But if you don't make time for that kind of stuff, if you don't prioritize it, then it's just going to slip through the cracks, and you're going to continue saying, yeah, I want to see them. I want to see my friends. I want to see my family. But it's not in the cards. Bullshit. If you prioritize it, it will happen. That might mean like paying for your mom's trip to visit you in Latin America, or your dad's trip. But it's worth it at the end of the day, because on your deathbed, you're going to want those experiences back.
This is a great point, being proactive as you, the person. Because a lot of these people maybe are watching you on social media or saying like, damn, what a life they're living, right? And maybe they're so happy and they have it all figured out. And if you come to them and be like, hey, I want to see you. We're going to plan this. It's going to mean the world to them. This is something I haven't been as good at, but it's something I learned right now from James, that I need to be more proactive in that department. You know, like, I don't know, like, I've always been like a free bird, you know, type of person. Like, okay, you want to follow me? That's great. If you don't, I'll be a lone wolf. That's kind of how I've lived my life. And, but yeah, as you get older, the people that actually matter, who've always had your back, who are always there for you, you have to show love to them, especially if you want to live this nomadic life. Because, great, this is beautiful. We're in this little fake pueblo, but we're in Medellin together, having a good time, drinking Club Colombia. But none of this really fucking matters if you have no one that cares about you. You know, no one, that you love, and not necessarily even share. Like, I love being a solo traveler. You know, when I have someone with me, after a while, I'm like, okay, let me go on my own. But that I can't call someone that, like, I know will die for me or has my back, like, then this shit means nothing, right? No matter how much money you got, how many beautiful things you see. So that's a big point. Okay, the Midwest people, your brain is going to blow up when you live with the Latinos. We've talked about it a lot, but it's a wild roller coaster. How have you dealt with that roller coaster, James? There we go. That's better. Yeah. We need some more of these napkins. How have you dealt with the roller coaster of life with Latinos compared to the Midwest reserved style? How do you match your energy with them? It's crazy.
Yeah, that part is difficult. So there are so many people here. You have to start filtering down to the people you're going to resonate with. I have lots of friends here in Medellin, in Bogota, in several different places in Colombia and all around Latin America. And I think the common thread with those people is that they are entrepreneurial, they're driven, they're determined to make a life for themselves. And that's what binds us together, just like you would in the US. I don't think it's that much different than making friends in the US and maintaining those relationships. you try to find people in the US who share your values, share your interests, share your hobbies, and therefore you get along with them. This isn't going to be anything new to you guys, but in Latin America, it's the same. Meeting up with people who speak your language. So if you do not speak Spanish or if you do not speak Portuguese, find the people who know your language and can speak with you on a regular basis. Because if you hole yourself in a hotel or Airbnb for months at a time, you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're not going to advance in life. That actually happened to me when I was not here and I wasn't learning. I wasn't on Twitter. I wasn't on social media at all. And my health suffered because of it. So tips when it comes to making friends, it's same as in the US, honestly. You have to put yourself out there. That's probably the biggest thing. You have to prioritize it, and if you don't prioritize, it's not going to happen. People are not going to just come crawling to you. You can't just wait on lucky circumstances to put you in the right spot. You have to put yourself out there. You have to get on social media and meet people. You have to go to events, whether they're for gringos or expats or tourists or a combination of the both. Because I like having a good combination of like expat friends, gringo friends from my own culture, but also people from here who share my ideals and values. So it all comes down to put yourself out there. I'll share one thing. I just heard about this app called Time Left. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I know it's going to sound like it, but it's actually really cool. So what they do is they have these dinners organized all around the world on specific dates, and all you do is sign up and say, this is who I am, these are my interests, this is my age, this is who I want to meet up with, this is blah, blah, blah. And they'll pair you up for dinner with random people who you've never met before, and using AI. And to like combine interests, so it's an actually like interesting dinner, and you're not meeting up with complete losers or people like way above your pay grade or whatever. And that's so I haven't been to one, but I'm going to one in a couple weeks, and I'm actually really excited about it. So I have my cup is full here in Medellin, and I have a ton of friends, and I don't need more friends. But I thought this is kind of a novel idea to meet more people and put myself out there. So things like that, and they have events in all over the world, definitely in the U.S. because I think it's a San Francisco-based company. That's a perfect like excuse to put yourself out there. You just sign up on a platform, it sends you a calendar invite, and you go to dinner with random people you've never met before. And I've heard some good experiences with it. So it's an idea, just put yourself out there.
So as much as I was bashing Latinos about their fakeness, they will take you in the first night. So if you're just a random gringo, especially in most places that aren't outside of like gringo hotspots, oh my God, what the hell is this gringo doing? Oh, hola, hola. You know, they'll bring you in, you know, ask you questions, have a beautiful first night with you, right? Play basketball, play soccer, okay? I always hooped. When I see a court, I'll go walk over there. Oh, let me play with you guys because I'm very good at basketball, just so you know. I can play one-on-one. And I also heard this from Jake Nomada, who's a legendary Latin America traveler guy. I think I listened to his podcast with My Latin Life guy. And he's like, when I first started traveling, I would just go to the basketball court and I would meet these dudes, and then boom, they would bring me to this place, that place. You're in with the locals. I've been blessed in the majority of the places I've been that I was on an American football team. So I'm thrown into a community, right? You know, my left tackle's a lawyer, my running back's a business owner. So I know it's easy. The other 6 months of the year, usually I'm fine with being alone and solo traveling and doing all that. But these are great tips that I've also done when I'm in a foreign place by myself. Cafes. Start shooting the shit at cafes. You know, you go there and work and you see someone, hey, hola. But you're going to realize this too. When you leave your bubble where you're from, all your insecurities, preconceptions, you know, who you are, you don't give a fuck anymore, okay? You go up to this person and say, hey, I like your hair. You know, that's really neat hair. Oh, where'd you get those cowboy boots, right? It doesn't matter if they reject you or not. You're never going to see them ever again. You know, if you vibe, maybe you will. But when people hit this freedom, they get out of their little bubble, your extrovertness will go through the roof, okay? And if it doesn't, if you have to push yourself, try it once. Feel the high you're going to get. You seem more like an introverted guy. Kind of?
I mean, I would call myself an extroverted introvert. So, yeah, definitely more introverted than you are. So I was going to say, on that note, for some people, it's going to be super uncomfortable not only to move to Latin America or travel here, but also once you're here, to go to these events or to go to dinners with people you don't know, or to go to meetups, or to go to co-working spaces and try to meet people that way. But you have to do it for your own sanity, for your own like health. Your physical and mental health will benefit from being around other people who share your values. But also, like I said before, Lux surface area. The more people you meet, the more you'll benefit professionally, personally. It spans the spectrum.
The easiest thing to do, and you think it's hard, but I'm telling you right now, it will lead to some of the most wild things, is one, just start walking, okay? It's harder in Latin America because you're afraid to get robbed, but you start walking and you start complimenting anyone you see. The old abuela, in the coffee shop, or say, oh, excuse me, you can even speak in English. I like your shoes, Rosa, bonita, and leave. Don't even, if you can't handle the conversation, just say, I like your shoes, and leave. It's gonna put a smile on her face, and it's gonna make you smile. You walk down the street and tell some guy like, oh, hey, I'm new here. Like, can you tell me what this building is? Or I like your cowboy hat. Do this, and trust me, it's going to lead to wild things, and it's not going to hurt you. Because again, remember this, you'll probably never, ever in your life see this guy again. Okay? He's not secretly recording you, like with these glasses, even though the light shines on. You move on if you have a terrible like interaction with him. But I'm telling you, talk to strangers. There's nothing holding you back.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Any other Midwest tips?
Midwest tips.
Or we save it for our course we're gonna make.
I mean, when you talk about meeting people, and I just can't underestimate or undervalue the importance of having like quality people around you. And sometimes it's the weirdest routes of meeting those people that will connect you with them, and you guys are like best friends. Like one of my best friends here, he's a Paisa. He's from Medellin. I got connected through my girlfriend's cousin's aunt's church. So she's in like this Mexican, she lives in Mexico, and she's part of this like Jewish like mysticism / Buddhism
Kabbalist.
church. Is exactly, yes. She's a Kabbalist.
You better be careful. You might need this
And she met up with this super successful crypto investor in Mexico City who's from New York City. And he came to Medellin one time, and they connected me with him because he's from the United States. And he brought with him someone who has built like the entire blockchain framework at Colombia here in Colombia for like the Colombian stable coin peso. And now he's one of my best friends. Like you never know who you're going to meet and how they're going to connect you with other people. So you better put your best foot forward. Like from a young age, my mom has always told me, your first impression matters so much. So show up no matter what kind of environment you're in, and it'll just bring great joys to your life through people, through new opportunities, through money, whatever. But that's the advice.
Here's a great point too. Don't be embarrassed or afraid to be who you are, like the Gringo, okay? I know you go into the culture, which I agree. I should probably learn one of these languages one of these days, but learn the culture, understand it, but also they're interested in you. They don't know what it's like to grow up in Minnesota. They don't know what it's like necessarily to live in the USA. So don't be afraid to like, oh, I need to wear exactly what the Colombian wears. You don't need to be a total chameleon. You can be respectful, but also this is what makes you somewhat interesting. There's a lot of people I bet that, oh, who the f- is this Gringo? You know what I mean? You don't feel that?
I disagree with that a tiny bit.
Tell me.
I think the way into locals' hearts, especially in Latin America, if you're wanting to meet up with locals, and I think that's important. If you're living in a foreign country, living there, not just traveling, because that's very different. Because you're not a tourist anymore, you're a resident, or a citizen in some cases. Then I think you owe that place a tiny slice of respect and gratitude. And what I mean by that, and I didn't mean that Nick wasn't saying that, is that I'm saying that you should try to integrate a tiny bit. Learn the language. Don't walk around. It's very difficult to explain to someone who has never been here, but if you have been in Latin America, you know what I'm talking about when I mean integrate just a tiny bit. Go to the local stuff, meet your girlfriend, and get to know her family, and respect them. Try not to like feed into the stereotypes that we bring here, unfortunately. Although a lot of them are unavoidable. So yeah, I mean, I get your point. Like, be yourself, of course. No one's ever gonna take my skin color away, or my face away, or the way I dress away, or my business culture, my entrepreneurialism, whatever. They're not gonna take that away, and I don't want them to take away. That's part of me. But I can also make an effort to integrate into the culture that has given me a lot. So I do try to make an effort, and I try to encourage other people to make an effort to integrate. I think that's important.
100%. Obrigado, beleza, understand this stuff. But I'm saying, I think there's some people who get in this mindset when they camp out in an area that they need to change everything about themselves and not express their uniqueness of where they came in their culture, okay? Because a lot of people are fascinated with it. It doesn't mean you go in here, big dick swinging, I got dollars, I'm the king, okay? I'm not saying that. But don't be afraid to share. People are so fascinated about different cultures. Just like when I come here, I ask a million different questions. Oh, you eat breakfast like this? Oh, wow. You go to church. There's a church going on, there was right now on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. So like, don't be afraid of your differences. A lot of times that's what makes you special, okay? You don't need to be fluent in Spanish to travel Latin America. That's definitely not the case. A lot of people are held back like, oh my God, if I want to go live down here, my whole life needs to change. That's not the case whatsoever. But be respectful, of course. All right, James, that's good 70 minutes so far. Do you have any other final points before this camera dies?
That's it. Learn Spanish, integrate a little bit, prioritize your family and friends, keep your drive and American like intuitiveness and drive and determination to better yourself and make more money, but at the same time respect the local culture in which you live. I think that's it.
One more thing, my own ego. We've known each other on Twitter for a little bit. We did a podcast last year around this time. Now finally meeting me in person. What is your opinion, or do I match up my online personality?
You do match up really well with your Twitter personality. I mean, you're one of those few people out there who's not like trying to turn their online presence into a business. You might make money with Bold in the future, but maybe you're doing right now. I don't know, but you're like you. And that's something I really respect about you. You don't try to sell out. And I think a lot of people who are online on social media take the opposite approach. Like they see it as, oh, there are a million people on this platform. I need to sell to them something. And that's not what Nick does. So I respect that about you.
It's not a bad compliment. James, the same person I thought he would be, but he's a lot bigger in person. Actually, today he's not wearing the muscle shirt. When I first met him, I was like, I can't talk shit to him, But no, James, good dude. I called him the good boy Gringo of Latin America, and he's lived up to it. He's a good dude. So hopefully he gets back to tweeting and YouTubing, because he had a lot of good content on there. And but it's been a pleasure, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Everyone else, live bold.